the Clown! Duckin' cover, kiddos.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full IT Welcome to Derry Episode 5 video. There are a whole bunch of Easter eggs, WTF moments, so we'll break it all down. We're finally starting to see more of the entity in his Pennywise the Clown form and learn more about the history of why he chose to take the form of Pennywise the Dancing Clown in the first place. The actual episode was titled 29 Neibolt Street, a reference to the address of the well house featured during the IT movies and the route the losers will eventually take during the movies to get to the cistern at the center of Derry's sewer system where Pennywise's actual lair is. On the show, where Tanyel told Hallorann and the military to go to find the 13 pillars that they were looking for, which was also a misdirect too. Basically the tribe leading the military to their slaughter, to their death. As Shaw says at the end of the episode, there will be hell to pay, so he's going to retaliate against the tribe for them doing this. It will probably not end well for anyone. Pennywise wants this all to happen, so he just loves the chaos that he's creating inside Derry. The opening scene starts immediately after the end of episode 4 with Hallorann and Tanyel coming out of his memories. Tanyel seems like he's reacting to the Force shining in a really bad way, like there's a very negative physical side effect to this happening. Then we go to the hospital and see Marge recovering, getting her eye patch, which she has for the rest of the series. She told the authorities that Lily wasn't trying to hurt her and confesses to Lily that she had a vision too, and finally believes everything that she's been saying about Pennywise all season. The show also recently confirmed that she will eventually become Richie's mother as part of the Losers Club during the events of the IT movie, so there's a lot of theories now that she actually names her son Richie in honor of Rich here, also implying that Rich might wind up sacrificing himself to save Marge. They did get a couple of moments, like Rich was very happy to hold her hand in this episode, but I don't think that their relationship is going to go much further beyond this series. Like, I think this implies a very, very bad ending for Rich's character. Do not worry, Marge will never forget you. At the Losers Club lookout base, they see a vision of Maddie asking for their help, which we know is a lie. They want you to wonder if Maddie is still alive, but it winds up being Pennywise just taking Matt's form, trying to bring them down to the cistern where it can pick them off and consume them at will, trying to make them more afraid, to make them taste better, which is why it doesn't pick them off right here. Part of the idea is that Pennywise can go after anybody that he wants at any part of the day. He mostly just likes to do this to have fun with people, to make them taste better. He doesn't actually need to make people afraid in order to consume them. He can consume people who aren't afraid. There are a couple of big references during his dialogue too. He says the sewer's where it lives. It is the name of the book and the it entity. So really it's Pennywise talking about himself, like I live down in the sewer. He also lies to them when he talks about sleeping during the day, feeding only at night. He can feed at any time of the day, and he doesn't sleep. He only sleeps when he's hibernating during the 27-year cycles. There's also another reference to this at the end of the episode during the credits. The song they play over the end credits, "The Devil Never Sleeps," is the truth of the actual matter. Pennywise does not actually sleep. Then we see Shaw telling Hanley about the 13 pillars and the truth of the matter. They know they're made from the meteorite that brought the it entity to Earth, and they form a cage around Derry, trapping Pennywise in Derry, which he then directly calls him out for, like, how dare you let me move my family into the danger zone and not let me know what was going on. To be fair to Shaw, even though he's making some very bad choices here, like this whole mission is ill-advised, it will not go well for any of them. He is correct when he tells Hanley that the plan was originally to have you live on base with your family outside the city limits where you would have been safe from Pennywise. Shaw explains that the military's main goal here, at least their next goal, is to capture Pennywise by shrinking the diameter of the 13 Pillars cage and then try to weaponize him, using him to win the Cold War against Russia, or the Soviet Union technically.
You and Colonel Fuller will lead a small team to secure them. Once in hand, you'll tighten the perimeter enough to control it.
And in order to do that, they're going to have to go to the house on Neibolt Street to get to them, even though this is also a lie that Tanyel told them, leading them to their eventual deaths, or most of their deaths. One of the other clever things that Pennywise is doing here too is he's letting this all play out because he wants the military to uncover the 13 pillars because he wants to destroy the cage that's trapping him in Derry, so he actually wants them to get the pillars. When Shaw mentions the military operation in 1951, he's talking about the Korean War, just a particular battle where a lot of American troops were killed. They try to make Shaw come off as noble in his intentions, if not very, very foolish, because this is a terrible, terrible plan that they have. Even if you don't know the Pennywise the It canon or you didn't read the books, you probably sense that there's no way they're going to be able to control him. Then we go to the tribe that is having a meeting about Pennywise, talking about the cycle of 27 years. They mentioned 1908, 1935, now the 1960s, the present-day cycle that's playing out. They also mentioned that Pennywise has been shedding his form, tainting Derry's groundwater since Derry, the town, was created. What they're actually talking about is him taking different forms. He takes a couple different forms during this episode, like the Maddie form or the Uncle Sam form, and then the eventual clown form. They also revealed that the purpose of this meeting, or one of the purposes, is to teach the younger member of the tribe to become a new keeper, one of the protectors of the pillars like Rose, who maintain the integrity of the barrier. She mentions the augury, which is meant to be a sign of a great event that will happen in the future, saying that in this context, it's a final event in each cycle, marking the end of the cycle before Pennywise goes back into hibernation again. And it's going to be some really really crazy WTF event, which is probably where we see all the floating bodies in the mist across the town in the trailers. We check in with Hank. The police are then sending him on the bus to Shawshank Prison from the Shawshank Redemption storyline because this is canon to Shawshank, or it's all canon in the Stephen King universe. We find out the crowd doesn't know the truth about what he did. They're just rioting because they still think that he killed all the kids. Currently, Andy Dufresne is at Shawshank, so if they were to actually go to Shawshank, which they don't in this episode, they actually could have an Andy Dufresne cameo scene if they wanted to. But as we see later in the episode, they completely swerve on that. One of the fathers of the kids Pennywise killed in the episode tries to shoot him. This is also Pennywise causing people to become more paranoid, angrier, basically just putting this low level of chaotic thought across everybody's brains, causing the town to get more chaotic, more violent, to set up another big cycle-closing event like the tribe just mentioned. And it seems like they're using Hank to eventually build up to the Black Spot event, which we know canonically from the It book. This is just the beginning, though. Like, things are going to get way worse in Derry over the next couple of episodes. Rose then argues with Shaw about Taniel and Pennywise. He reveals that he was given a drug as part of a military protocol, probably MK Ultra related. I think that's what that's a reference to, causing his memories of Pennywise and Derry to return, explaining how he was able to start the mission in the first place and why he came back to Derry. There were a lot of questions about this too, like if everybody forgets Derry when they leave, how did he know to come back with this big force? So the idea is that the treatment caused him to remember Pennywise, then he came up with the plan to weaponize him to win the Cold War, then brought the group back, the Military Special Projects Group, to start this mission. They flash back again to young Rose explaining the tribe's secret about Pennywise, why he was trapped in the woods initially, and they intercut with Rose bringing out the dagger made from the meteorite in present day, which the kids eventually find by the end of the episode. She is 100% correct when she tells Shaw there's no way the military can control it and is essentially just letting them proceed to their deaths. Like, she knows exactly how this is going to play out. Like, oh yeah, you're definitely all going to die when you go down there. When she tries to remind him what it's like to stare Pennywise dead in the face before he actually tries to kill you, they'll probably try to pay this off in some ironic way with the way they get rid of the Shaw character. Like, he will probably die in some twist way before the end of the season. Kind of like Pennywise getting his revenge for not being able to kill him during 1908. Like, you thought you escaped all those years ago. Well, I got you now. Rose then talks to Taniel about their plan to lead the military to their deaths, basically misdirect them by also making them believe that he's the only person that can actually use a dagger, when that's not true because the kids then pick the dagger up later and they're able to use it. Hanley then tries to take Charlotte and Will out of Derry to the base to try and keep them safe. Does not work because Will then goes straight back to town and with the kids goes down into the sewers. Lily also goes to visit Ingrid and they confirm a bunch of big fan theories about her. So they do confirm that she is married to the butcher, so she is Mrs. Kersh, meaning that she's the same older Mrs. Kersh during the events of the It movies. And she's also the daughter of Bob Gray. She is Periwinkle the Clown that we saw in the 1908 flashbacks. So at this point, she's connected to pretty much all the major storylines on the show. When she tries to make Lily promise to not go into the sewers looking for anything, looking for the kids, is because she knows about Pennywise the Clown. She knows all about this. We also get a very abusive vibe from her husband, the butcher, I think to also explain why she might have wound up in the relationship with Hank, which we'll talk about in a second too, because that was another big confirmation. The white woman who was married, who Hank was in a relationship with that he didn't want to mention. Charlotte hears on the news that Hank's bus to Shawshank crashed on its way. Pennywise might have had something to do with that. They also mention the military closed off Neibolt Street around the well house in preparation for their operation, which they begin rolling out right after this scene. While they're busy rolling in force to the sewers, you see the kids use their mother's pills and then go down into the sewers with Maddie, although it is Pennywise in Maddie form, just leading them to their deaths, or so he thinks. By this point, most of you, even if you didn't know that it was Pennywise, were probably suspicious of what Maddie was doing. Like, he's acting very sus, so you probably sensed how this was all going to play out for the rest of the episode. There are a couple of jokes that they have about her mother's pills too, like, are these safe? Should we be taking so many? Maybe your mother has a problem. Maybe we should check on her at some point. They're very, very correct. Also, the pills themselves seem like they do nothing to stop them from being afraid. Like, Lily is still terrified when Pennywise comes for her later, meaning that they were completely ineffective. Even Hanley, who doesn't have an amygdala and can't physically experience fear, seems like he has a fear response in the episode, like Pennywise is still able to scare him technically, meaning the only thing in the episode that has any effect to protect against Pennywise is the dagger itself. There is no armor that you have against Pennywise. Even Hallorann with his shining ability isn't powerful enough to stop Pennywise from opening up his psychic box. The only effective armor against Pennywise is effectively the shards of the meteorite, the special dagger. There are a couple other Easter eggs you probably recognize during some of their dialogue too. Lily says the thing, people are either anchors or lifeboats, they keep you afloat or they drag you under. Another reference to Pennywise's line from the book, you'll all float too. There will actually be more references to this later in the series too. When the military rolls into the well house, they talk about its canonical history from the books. First, the well existed, then the house was built around it eventually. It connects to all the sewers beneath Derry when the town was constructed.
House on Neibolt Street was built atop an old ground well that dates back to colonial days.
And even though Pennywise would have been influencing the way that Derry was built inside of his cage, like he has total control inside the cage, he doesn't really need the tunnels themselves to get around. He can teleport at will. Their mission basically plays out exactly how everybody thought that it was going to play out. Pennywise just picking them off one at a time, just having some snacks, as they slowly reveal him in his full clown form. That was really the point here, to have that big reveal of the kids seeing him in clown form in the way that they revealed him. You also notice the military's route is pretty much the same route that the Losers Club takes when they defeat Pennywise in the It movies, both in the past and as adults later. You notice Hallorann says that he can feel his presence the minute that they hit the sewers, just this low-level psychic influence pressing down on them. It also felt like they used the red lights here on the military just as a design choice to make you think Pennywise in red balloons. Then Pennywise goes after Hallorann first, causing him to hear his grandmother, so like all the things that he experiences is Pennywise just messing with his head. But essentially he's framing it as this terrible memory of his grandfather, which is his great fear, like his traumatic past in what his grandfather did to him, abusing him, his grandmother, the rest of his family. My assumption here is that Pennywise went after Hallorann first just because he is the most powerful psychically here next to Hanley, who physically can't experience fear. All the other people down here are relatively easy for him to deal with. If you have not read The Shining book or seen the movie, the idea is that Hallorann's really big fear, like his greatest fear, is technically his grandfather. When he starts talking about the box, trying to unlock it, you have to remember that this is Pennywise in his grandfather's form, because he's trying to scare Hallorann, getting him to open his psychic box. So the box itself is another reference to the Shining story. In his backstory, his grandmother, who also had the Shining ability, taught him how to trap his fears, evil spirits, in a psychic box where they couldn't hurt him anymore. So he basically keeps all of his greatest fears inside this box that Pennywise tries to and eventually successfully opens by the end of the episode. Basically sidelining Hallorann, who is one of the few people who actually has psychic abilities that could fight Pennywise. So essentially it's Pennywise dealing with one of his biggest threats. You get a little bit of his actual backstory here too, the idea that his grandfather wanted to use the Shining ability for power and profit, whereas as a little kid, like he's meant to be a little kid here, but you show him in adult form, that's why he's shrinking so small here. You have to imagine this is all what happened when he was a little kid, like he tried to abuse his grandmother and force him to use his Shining ability. You also notice a little bit earlier in the episode here, when he's yelling at him about the box itself, you start to hear his clown laugh coming out here, and it's Bill Skarsgard's voice laughing. So even before he actually appears as Pennywise the Dancing Clown in that form, you're also hearing Bill Skarsgard's voice as Pennywise. It's kind of the same vibe when he appears to the soldiers as the demonic Uncle Sam. I need you, doing the slogan from the military. It's Pennywise's voice as Uncle Sam. When the kids walk beneath the rail tracks to the entrance to the sewers is meant to be a direct copy to the It movies when the losers take the same path to get to Pennywise's lair. Daniel then tries to duck the military but loses the meteor dagger, leaving him vulnerable to Pennywise. He also gets a mouthful of sewer water down here, which actually has just as good of a chance of killing him as Pennywise. Like, he's going to need a whole lot of medicine to get rid of that bacteria. But this is also for plot reasons so that Lily can get the dagger. Hanley and Polly have their first encounter with Pennywise, Polly freaking out, but Hanley then seeing his wife, realizing that it's Pennywise, shoots her, tries to make him afraid, and it startles him. Like, he's not actually afraid, he's just startled. But this is also to set up the idea that he almost winds up killing his son Will, thinking that it's Pennywise again until Polly sacrifices himself to save Will. Probably one of the most messed up moments in the episode, that he almost winds up killing his own son, next to all the Pennywise scenes themselves too, which is probably the coolest part of the episode. As we see Pennywise in Maddie form take the kids to try and slaughter them.
This way.
Love the way they do this reveal too, with him spinning around and then morphing slowly into his clown form from Maddie. Also, they make it seem like he's on a stage too, with a little pull, like he's performing for them, playing with his food before he eats it. You also notice too there's a big callback to earlier this season when he takes the clown form finally, like goes back into clown form and calls out the turtle message from earlier this season saying, "Duck and cover, kiddos." The whole reason why he knows this message is because of his psychic power. He knows literally everything that's happening in the town 24/7. Then as he tries to separate the kids and pick them off one at a time, you probably sense this, he traps Lily the same way that he traps Patrick during the It movie, changing the layout of the sewer so she winds up in a dead end. You have to remember that Pennywise can change reality in addition to making people see things. And even though she is hocked up on all that medication, he still is able to scare her using her pickle form father again until she's saved by the dagger. You notice he is definitely not happy about that dagger. But it also glows when it's near Pennywise. So not only is it an effective weapon against Pennywise or a deterrent against him, it's also a good detector for Pennywise. All you gotta do is just keep that dagger on you. The minute it starts glowing, you know that he's right next to you. This is also a really effective way to keep him from using any more Maddie type of form-changing tricks on them again. So anytime that somebody pretends to be someone else, they'll know that it's Pennywise if the dagger starts glowing. Then we go back to Ingrid, who finds Hank hiding in her car, and they make the final confirmation that she was the white woman that he was having a relationship with. Like I said, they tried to show that she was in a very unhappy marriage. Her husband seemed kind of abusive, so this is how she wound up falling into the arms of another man that just happened to be Hank. When he mentions the person who can help him, he's talking about Charlotte, which they'll pick up with in next week's episode. Because Ingrid goes to see her, I think we know somebody in common. We also go to Hanley, who's giving his debriefing on how the mission went sideways. Notice he does not mention that he is the person who shot Polly, only that Polly got shot and he went down. Shaw mentions that the military is going to retaliate against the tribe for leading them to their deaths. This probably will not end well for either parties. When they mention Hallorann barely surviving, like, oh, he'll probably be okay, he crawls out of the sewers, but then sees Polly, who is dead because that's how The Shining works. You're able to see dead people. And they make the reveal that Pennywise was able to open his psychic box. So I think really what they're trying to set up here is the idea that Hallorann has been sidelined for most of the rest of the season. Maybe he'll do something heroic before the actual finale, but for at least the next episode or two, he's going to be down for the count. Really happy to see Bill Skarsgard come back as Pennywise the Clown, even though he'd been in previous episodes in voiceover, like he'd done some voiceover in the background, but they've been using different forms of the It entity. One of the other interesting things that happened behind the scenes, too, that might have had something to do with why they waited so long to reveal him in the clown form is because when they first started making the show, Bill Skarsgard wasn't as keen to actually come back as Pennywise the Clown for the series, so they were trying to develop, I think, a series without the need for him being in clown form. After they'd filmed about half of the season, though, they had to stop production because of the strikes, and enough time went by that by the time they were able to start filming again, Bill Skarsgard was way more keen about coming back, like wanted to be much more involved with the production. So I think that's why we're seeing so much more actual Pennywise the Dancing Clown in these last half of the season. Maybe if he had wanted to come back more sooner, we would have seen more Pennywise the Dancing Clown in earlier episodes. But everyone, let me know in the comments, do you think that they should have shown the clown more in previous episodes, or are you fine with them showing him mostly in the back half of the season? Everybody post all your reactions in the comments below, and if there's any Easter eggs or references that you spotted that I didn't talk about in this video, just write them below in the comments. My episode 6 trailer video will post next, and then my full episode 6 video will post next week after Thanksgiving after they release it. The other really big reminder is that Stranger Things Volume 1, the first 4 episodes, is dropping on Wednesday. My video for that should post Thursday morning on Thanksgiving Day, so be sure to enable alerts on my channel so you don't miss any of that. Everybody click here for that episode 6 video. I'll update the link as soon as I post it, and click here for all my other Welcome to Derry episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.